Can we pour one out for Ivory Coast, man? Can we pour one out for Cote d'Ivoire? I don't have a drink, but man, what a heartbreaking way to lose. But we got to shout out Norway. That goal by Nusa, what a curler. What a curler. Di Maria would be proud if he had a right foot. Unfortunately, he only has a left one. But wow, what a curler, man. And then Amad Diallo. I mean, Cote d'Ivoire didn't quit. Amad Diallo, what a goal. What a goal. Dribble, dribble, shift to his left, finish. Nasty. But then, he's inevitable, guys. He is inevitable. Thanos himself, Erling Haaland. He scores a tap in, which is his bread and butter. But like I said in my prediction video, look, one team has Haaland, the other team doesn't. I did predict Cote d'Ivoire to win. I'm not going to lie. But the proof is there. The evidence is there, obviously. But one team did have Haaland and the other team didn't, right? And that's what I was saying, right? If you have Haaland, that can make the difference. And if you get the ball to Haaland in the box, it's a chance. That's all. He'll figure out the rest. Just get it to him, he'll figure out the rest. And Norway did that, and they're going on to the round of 16. And it is the end for the Ivory Coast team here at the World Cup. Really, really fun team. They had a really good World Cup, in my opinion. Going band for band with Germany was huge. Getting that win versus Ecuador was huge. Obviously, being Curacao, huge. So, shout out to the Ivory Coast. Shout out to Les Elephants. But that's the end of the road. And it kind of sucks for me. I think for where Ivory Coast went wrong and what I'd love to see in the future is actually more Amad Diallo. I'm confused why he didn't start this game. I like to see that. And then you obviously need Boney to be just more clinical, a little more inventive. I know it's like if you told every team, oh, just tell your players to get better, then every team would be better. But really, I think that's what Ivory Coast is missing because they have all the tools to go far in these tournaments, right? I think you could argue they deserve to win this game. They had quite a few chances. Nicolas Pepe was making some really good runs and finding space on the right hand side, but they just couldn't finish him. They really couldn't finish him, and I think that's down to Boney. He's super young, so as he matures, this Ivory Coast could go as far as he takes them. But I'd also like to see Amad Diallo get a lot more game time, because obviously when he came on, you could see his impact. Now, for Norway, this team might be for real. This team might be for real. I almost didn't want to say it, but this team might be for real. And it's weird because for quite a while, like no one really considered Norway like that. But now it seems they got their golden generation, man. They got Sorloth, they got Holland, they've got Odegaard, they got Nusa, they got Oscar Bob. This is a good team, man. Christopher Ayers, solid in the back. There's not much you can really knock on this team. Now it's no France, it's no Brazil, but this is a very, very solid team. And this team's gonna give teams trouble. And look, who's to say this team can't go to a quarterfinal? Look, I'm not saying they're going to go and beat Brazil, but the potential is there because you have Holland and Brazil don't, right? And look, Brazil have Gabriel and Marquinhos. I hear you. But that game's going to be tough, man. I'm going to do a prediction video for that later on this week. But that game, if Holland shows up in that game, Brazil might have some trouble, man. But at the end of the day, like I said, Holland is inevitable, and Norway are qualified on to the next round. Norwegian football might be having, its best period in years. I mean, you obviously look at the likes of Bodo Glimt leading the charge there, and prior to that, I mean, Rosenborg was like the big team in Norway, in the '90s. But to be, a contender like this on the world stage, yesterday I was saying we're talking about the table one teams, right? The nucleus of the World Cup was always the top 3 or 4 teams in Europe, right? Italy, Germany, France, and Spain or England at the time, or whoever, the Netherlands. And then you'd have the big 3, or really the big 2 in South America with Argentina and Brazil, and I guess sometimes Uruguay. But now I think the total level of football across the world is starting to rise so much and even out. And yes, still the contenders of the World Cup are those teams from those regions, right? In this World Cup, it's France and Argentina and England. But you look at Norway, team in the Scandinavian. Yeah, they're from Europe, but they're never in the conversation. I look at this team and I say, hey, this team might be in that conversation now. You have the best striker in the world. another really good striker, another good winger in Nusa. You have depth in the likes of Bob and Schelderup and even the Bodo Glimt guys, right? Jan Spitzer Hauge. Odegaard's a great midfielder. He's looked really good this tournament. I gotta tell you, man. Odegaard has looked very good. Wow. Where was this at Arsenal like the last 2 years? Anyway, Sander Berge. So they've got the pieces. There's still some more to develop. This is gonna take a while for them to be necessarily a World Cup contender. But now you're talking about tier one teams. You could probably put Norway in that conversation. You know, People who are trying to push the envelope, trying to break through, right? With the Moroccos, with the Senegals. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully with the USA. So love to see that, man. I think Norway's just another example of that. And yeah, man, shout out to this Norwegian side. I guess we're gonna keep rowing and rowing and rowing and rowing and rowing. Absolutely incredible, man. And yeah, not much else to say. I mean, we can talk about these predictions for the round of 16 later on this week. As far as Ivory Coast, man, I hope this doesn't derail them because this is a major opportunity for them, right? This was to get to their first World Cup knockouts ever. That was huge. We gotta clap it up for that, man. And we look at the status of some of these footballers, especially one Yan Diomande who looks to be joining PSG. That'll be great for Ivorian football. And yeah, Ivory Coast has had top footballers playing top clubs before, but I think the overall trend of not only Ivorian football but right African football is going in the right direction. When you see how well the African teams have been performing, the fact that 9 out of 10 teams that qualified for the World Cup made it to the round of 32. Unfortunately, two of them are already out in the round of 32. But hey, we still got Morocco. You know what I mean? Algeria's got a good chance, I think. Senegal's also got a good chance. So we could see, three teams, at least in my opinion, three teams, in my opinion, in the round of 16 that are from Africa. And that would be great for the direction of football in the country. And I think, right, African football always gets, just disrespected. To call it what it is, it gets disrespected and unreasonably, obviously, considering the amount of football talent that country has produced. That not only that country, that continent, rather, sorry, but to see them on this stage putting in great performances is a big step forward in my opinion, and I'd love to see it continue. As far as Diomande, hey, just watch my video. I hope he comes. I really do hope he comes, and I think he will be at PSG this next season. And I think that's another big win for Ivorian football. But yeah, that's all that I gotta say about that, man. Thank you guys so much for watching yet again. It's been your boy Ollie Footy. Until next time, we out.